Hey guys, so it's here bringing you another video, and now today's extra video for the day technically could be called a league discussion, I guess. So we're going to be talking about Dynamic Queue today, and just one thing to say before we begin is last weekend I do 2 videos a day on weekends specifically, and I did not upload a second video on the Sunday. The reason for that was I actually made this video, or a version of this video, a week ago, but I decided to not release it. The reason was I didn't want to create any I don't know, bad feelings or make a riot, no pun intended, because back a week ago there was a lot of hate going out from the community towards Riot. And that's one thing to say, this video is not going to be I hate Riot, get your pitchforks. It's somebody that has played this game since the beginning, giving their honest opinion about it, and then being one of these 1% players that a lot of people are talking about. So I have a few perspectives. I have this perspective of played for a long time. I have the perspective of I'm in the top 1%. I have the perspective I've played competitive in a team, and then I have the perspective of being a YouTuber. You know, I hear thousands of voices every month of their own opinions, and I kind of understand how that works as well. So I've got a fairly collective ideology, if you want to say that. Now, one thing to say, just again straight away, this is going to be a video against Dynamic Queue. I am not for Dynamic Queue. This is a video against it. Hopefully that doesn't make you click off, because I am going to be giving, I think, valid reasons, and that's what I'm basically here to do, is just to make people understand why people have a problem with it. Because, you know, the advantages of Dynamic Queue are simple. You get to play with your friends. That's where the advantages stop with me, really. Maybe I'm blinded and maybe I'm biased, or I am biased, but that is the only advantage. And to that, straight away, I'd say it doesn't belong in League, especially when they built the success in a certain way. So let's just explain. So one thing to say, I've got notes. I never do notes, ever, but I've got notes for this video. The thing with League of Legends is they became the most popular game of all time, the most concurrent player base of all time. You know, over 30 million players a month played this game for the past few years. They built this game by a specific formula. You know, their specific formula was solo queue, ranked 5s, normal games, and then having a massive competitive scene. That was the formula of what made League of Legends popular. It made it the most popular game in the world. Why are you looking to change that formula? That is the first point that I just want to make is, firstly, who was asking for this change? And was it a valid thing in the first place to even listen to those people? And what I mean by that, Riot came out and I think have said is, we heard that, you know, more casual players would play ranked if they could play with more people. Now, that my massive initial argument to that is, why are you changing the ranked system, the hardcore system, to casual players? Now, the point I want to bring into this especially is, I'm going to try and not make this video, by the way, all over the place. I'm going to try and make valid points and, you know, very clearly do them. Is World of Warcraft, let's make the comparison, was the biggest game of its time. And everybody agreed. World of Warcraft, there is never going to be a game that will beat World of Warcraft. The thing that will beat World of Warcraft is Warcraft itself. Is that the developers will make a change that people are unhappy with, and that will start making the player base decline. That happened. That happened when they decided to go more casual with World of Warcraft. They went from a 12 million player base in the beginning of Cataclysm, the end of Wrath of the Lich King, and because of how casual they made it, WoW is sitting at about 5.5 million right now, less than half what it used to have at its peak, because they went into a casual way. Other examples, RuneScape. RuneScape, you can laugh at the game, but it used to be known as a fairly hardcore thing if you were a wilderness player, because you're PKing, you could lose all your gear, and they decided to get rid of that. They made it more of a casual experience, get rid of the really hardcore experience. What happened? It completely got shafted. A few years down the line, they've introduced the wilderness, but that was a massive mistake, and I think they've even admitted that. Like, these examples exist. You can't hide away from these examples, is when you take a hardcore game or a hardcore element to a game, make it more casual, bad stuff happens. Now, the biggest thing and the biggest reason why I do believe this is, even though you may, watching this video, not believe you're a hardcore player, you also don't want to think that you're a casual player. It's the way that I think most people work, that even if you play, like, ranked in League of Legends used to be a hardcore, no question, ladder. It used to be solo queue, duo queue. It was hard, it was good, it was brilliant. and it was hardcore. And as soon as that flips to potentially being casual, you're going to turn off a lot of people. Even if they don't think themselves they're hardcore players, as soon as they hear the word casual or they feel it's becoming more casual, it's gone for them. Like, that competitive drive to keep playing has gone completely. And that's one thing to say, just as a personal note, my friends list on my main account used to be full of challenger players, master players, and high diamond players. You know, I'm very fortunate that I know a lot of these people. I don't see them log on anymore. Like, I don't see them playing. And I'm going to say roughly half of them still play. Like, is that because they got bored, burnt out? Maybe. But I'd say a very big reason is because they've lost their competitive drive due to dynamic queue. Now, later in this video, I will explain why it's so bad for the top 1%. Because, again, you watching this video might be typing a comment going, it's not that bad, stop complaining. I will explain why it's so bad for the top 1% very soon. Anyway, that's just kind of the intro out the way. It's, you know, my main thing is why cater to the casuals when it's a hardcore system? To me, that just seems like a bad idea in the first place. Okay, so the first point, I've got three main ones. It's firstly just talking about dynamic queue in general, which will include talking about the top 1%. Then we're going to talk about the autofill feature, and then finally we're going to be talking very briefly about the round table event. I realise that's a couple weeks old now, and again, these notes are from a week ago, but I think in the video that I did record a week ago, although it was very similar to this, I may have got a little bit too emotional in that, hence why I probably didn't upload it as well. But firstly, let's talk about dynamic queue. So the reason why dynamic queue, I believe, is hated by the higher percentage of player is because it diminishes individual skill. Now, Riot themselves have admitted, yes, this is a problem. Dynamic queue makes it that so you don't need to be as good individual to be rewarded. You can basically just play as a team and get the same rewards as a solo player whose adventure to be high rated is a lot harder. Their response to this is, we don't have a solution. We don't know. That's a massive problem. When you consider, and I'd wager, and again, this is a bit of speculation, so take it if you will, I'd say the top 10% of the player base is most likely where the most solo queue happens. Like, so Platinum 5 onwards, I'd say more solo queue happens than dynamic queue. Again, that's speculation. I think being a solo player is more of a high-rated experience, a more hardcore experience. That's why higher-rated people tend to do it. Being a multiple group, being a dynamic group, happens more bronze, silver, gold level, like the lower ranks. So individual skill doesn't mean as much in bronze, silver, gold. Where individual skill does matter, platinum, diamond, masters, challenger. That is where people want to know what they are worth. In my opinion anyway. Like, to me, that's just common sense. It's the reason why I kind of played this game in the first place or the reason why I played it as hardcore as I did, to kind of gauge where I was in the world. You know, when I was Diamond 1, I could very much say, I'm a Diamond 1 player, I belong to be here, I got here off my own back. When now, I'll be honest, I hardly play on my main account anymore because it's pointless. Because it doesn't matter if I'm a Diamond 4 or a Diamond 1 or a Diamond 2 or even Masters, because it doesn't matter anymore. The reward is meaningless, because if I get there by myself, I'm going to think, God, that was hard, I got Diamond 1 again. But then there's going to be somebody in my game that got Diamond 1 by dynamic queuing. And that completely just gets the feeling of reward, that it just gets rid of it for me. And I hardly play on my main account anymore, which is pretty sad. I'd love to, but I just don't have the drive anymore, because I think the reward is meaningless as a solo player, because we don't get rewarded for being a solo player. Like, one thing to mention, slight tangent, is G-Bay in the roundtable event. I think he was the one that mentioned that maybe if you're a pure solo player, maybe if a percentage of your games are pure solo, so maybe if 90% of your games are pure solo, then you have a badge or you have some recognition for being a solo player. Like, you know, you have your diamond border or challenger border, but you have something on that border that defines you as a solo player, that people can go, okay, he got there by his own back, there is nothing we can take away from him. And I think for me personally, that does help, because it's like, okay, I actually get something and I can show that I did this by myself. And a lot of people say, oh, that's just vanity. Obviously it's vanity. The borders, the whole ranked system is vanity. You know, you're either diamond border. That's vanity. They don't even need borders, but they have them because people want them. And I think it gives recognition. So give recognition to the solo players. I think that will go a long way. If, by the way, you are planning on keeping dynamic queue, yes, I am speaking to Riot. That's whatever. So, first point, yes, individual skill means less, which makes the higher rated people less interested in playing ranked. Next point is boosting. Big point. Recently, Season 6 has become more of a joke season in terms of boosting. Boosting has always been a problem in really online games to a certain degree. It was a problem within League, but it was never, mainstream. You knew what boosting was, you knew it existed, but it was never in the light. It was never so obvious that it was happening. Recently in North America, this is how obvious it is. Around 100 Challenger accounts recently got banned that were linked to boosting. That's huge, around 100. Now, yes, some people say there are some that have been falsely banned. I'm not going to get into that because Riot are just trying to purge all the people that potentially are boosters and boosted accounts. But that's ridiculous when around half of the accounts in Challenger in North America are being banned for boosting. That's a massive problem with their system. And again, you have to remember, the Challenger accounts are the ones that are, the most public because there's a massive Challenger thing that you can look at. So how many accounts in now Diamond, Platinum that have been boosted through this system are existing. Now, some people say, it's not technically boosting if you're playing with friends. I have a slight different definition of boosting, in my own opinion. Whether it's right, whether it's wrong, it's my own opinion. It's basically relying on somebody else to get you to a rating that you otherwise wouldn't get to. That is my definition of boosting. Whether you pay for that service or you don't, it's regardless. Paying for it, I will say, as soon as you pay for that, that is boosting no matter what you're doing. Even if you're playing with a friend and you pay them to play with you, that is boosting. As soon as a transaction happens, that's boosting. But yeah, if you don't pay and it's just a friend of yours, it's still boosting in my eyes because you're getting to a rating that you wouldn't get to otherwise. You may not be able to get punished for it, but then there's a sense of moral there. And I will say, I'm not going to name and shame, but when you have to the point of certain YouTubers and streamers advertising boosting Tuesdays, if you're a Twitch subscriber, you can get boosted by me. There's a problem there, not only with their system, but then now the community is changing. Let me just reiterate the point. As soon as a transaction occurs, then it's boosting. As soon as you are paying for a service, even with Dynamic Queue, that is defined as boosting. So hopefully people get punished for it. I don't know how people can do it. I think it's just morally wrong, but people are taking advantage of a broken system, I guess. So that's a problem. Boosting, major problem. Next one is the point of people are saying, and this is Riot's opinion, is League of Legends is a team game, therefore you should be able to play as a team in the main ranked ladder. The problem with this is a couple things. The first problem is, yes, League of Legends is a team game, but it's a team game that relies on individual skill. So you have top lane, mid lane, bot lane, jungle. All are individual components to a team. Now, the main point that people are trying to make is, hey, Overwatch is most likely going to have Dynamic Queue. You're going to have a problem with that. What people aren't apparently noticing is Overwatch is a team game that is a pure team game. The objective for your team is always the same as a collective team. You're either all transferring the payload or defending the payload or capturing a point together. There is no individual aspect of that game in terms of objectives. Where League of Legends, that's the game, is top tower, mid tower, bot tower, top kills, mid kills, bot kills, jungle farming, camps, Baron, Dragon. There is so much individual aspects to League of Legends that, I'm sure many of you agree. It's very rare, especially in ranked, back in the solo queue days, for you to come together as a team and work together. But I loved that feeling. When you were solo players and you all did your job and then you come together as solo players, that was a really good feeling. And then when I wanted to have the experience of playing as a collective, as a, on Skype force, I'd go play ranked 5s. There was no problem with that. I liked ranked 5s. I loved ranked 5s. I played competitive with, some of you will know Fi. We played in tournaments for years. We did quite well. And we played ranked 5s to practice. But my other friends, who are my World of Warcraft friends for the past 8 years, they're not Diamond, they're not, Platinum, some of them. They're Gold players and stuff like that. We played ranked 5s for fun. I'm not really going to play normals because I just don't like normals. And now I literally can't play with those friends. There's a problem there. Again, it's taking aspects out of the game out that actually worked. But yeah, let me reiterate the point. League of Legends is a team game that relies on individual skill. It's not a team game that is purely a team game. It's why I don't think the main ranked ladder should be focused on team play. It should be focused on being an individual in a team. And I will just make the point, it's a silly one, I know, but you have to remember in the pro scene, who are the most known players in the world? They're not the most known players in the world aren't the team players. They're not the guys that just help everybody else. They are the individual players. They are the Doublelifts, the Fakers, the Bjergsen's, the people that play the game to a individual basis at the highest level, but amongst the team, which is why I think solo queue is the way forward and has always been the way forward with League of Legends, really. Now it's time to talk about the top 1%. This may go a bit long, and again, just to mention, this video is going to be quite long. But I'm getting it all out there. If people ask me questions like they have been in the past week or so in the comments, I can just direct them to this video. So the community is split between liking Dynamic Queue, well, 3 UAs really. Liking Dynamic Queue, they don't care, they just don't have an opinion, or they hate Dynamic Queue. Now, generally, it's agreed that Dynamic Queue, it doesn't really matter from bronze to platinum. Now, you may be in the comment section right now going, I'm silver and I still hate it. That's fine. You know, I'm just saying on average, the percentage that gets screwed over by the system is the top 1%. Again, even Riot has admitted this, that it's not a good experience for the top 1% players right now. Now, I'm just going to explain why that can't happen. You know, you can't have the top 1% of your players, the best players in your game, having the worst experience. All right, let's begin. So, that top 1%, you have to think who is in that top 1%. So, every single League of Legends pro, pretty much all the educational content creators, so YouTubers, streamers, but then all the other just best players in the world. But within that group, there's a specific group that I don't think anybody's spoken about. The one-trick ponies. Now, yes, I'm not a fan of one-trick ponies, but even if I want to learn a champion, I will go look at the one-trick pony of a certain champion. So, example, Gangplank. I recently did a Gangplank guide. Where did I do my research? Sure, I had my own knowledge, but I looked at Tobias Fate. He is a challenger, the best Gangplank ranked player in the world. Has 3 accounts in Masters or Challenger. That's who I look to. That's influence if even someone like me is looking towards that player. And there you go. Like, that's the group that this is in. So just to kind of summarize the 1%. Pro players, YouTubers and streamers, just generally the best players in the world. And then also the one-trick ponies, the best people at specific champions. Take all those people as a collective. That's a lot of influence. That is a lot of influence not only of how League of Legends is played, but that's also a lot of influence in entertainment. And let's be honest, League of Legends has become an entertainment source through watching streams and videos and professional singing. It's an entertainment source, not just a video game now. So when you're screwing over the people within that bracket, the 1% who provide the knowledge, provide the pro play, when you're screwing over those people, it's never gonna be a good thing. Like, again, let me just make the point. League of Legends is always defined by the meta, that, you know, what champions are currently being played, what item builds are being done, runes, masteries, you name it. That always comes from the top 1%. That somebody in the top 1% plays it, then another person in the top 1% goes, that's actually not bad, I'm going to play it. And then slowly it trickles down through the rest of the ranked play. You know, whether you're watching somebody stream in Challenger or somebody... Example, so it's like a snowball effect. So, okay, someone watches Bjergsen, he's streaming, and he does a new item build. This person who's watching is in Platinum. They then decide to try it in their own Platinum ranked game. They think it's good, they do well. Somebody in their game in Platinum goes, that's pretty good, I'm going to play that in my next game. Then their gold friend goes, hey, that's a cool build, I'm going to play that in my gold game. Then a silver person sees it, then a bronze person sees it. That's how the meta is born, is by people noticing what people are doing in the top 1%. It trickles down, and hey presto, you now have the meta. You can't have the top 1% who make the meta, who define how League of Legends is played, getting screwed over by the system. You just can't have that. Next point, again, small one, is within top 1%. I mentioned pro players. Mentioned just now, Bjergsen streaming. You can't have that anymore. Pro players have quit Dynamic Queue for a couple of reasons. One, because of Dynamic Queue, because it's not really fun if you just want to play ranked and then suddenly you have to play against the whole of TSM, or in Korea you have to play against the whole of SKT. That doesn't sound like a fun video game to me if I'm just playing ranked. I don't want to play against a full pro team, and that's a problem with challenger scene and everything like that right now, and I'll talk about that in a second. You can't watch these pros anymore because they don't really stream, because they've quit Dynamic Queue to go play on the tournament realm. When you have your pros of a video game quit the main ranked ladder, you know there's a problem there. Even if you like Dynamic Queue and you're like, it doesn't affect me in a negative way, you have to look to the pros quitting the system, and you even have to think that's a problem. Like, that is a massive problem. Next point to make is within the top 1%, so Diamond 5 Plus is generally the top 1%. They have now introduced a new system that you can no longer go in as 5 people. Now, yes, this fixed the problem where we can no longer play or you can no longer play against the whole of SKT, or the whole of TSM, or the whole Fnatic, which is great, but it screws over team play. The system when Riot went, hey, Dynamic Queue, blah, 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 was we want to help team play. Now, in the top 1%, you can't play as a team? Okay. Now, I think this was a very rushed decision. I am in the camp that believes that Ranked 5s has to come back now. There is no way around it. For a game that is now trying to go in a more team-orientated direction, and now you're not letting your top player base play team play, Ranked 5s has to come back, in my opinion, which I'm actually very happy about. But I don't know when, and I would say they should have brought Ranked 5s out on parallel of getting rid of pre-made 5s in Diamond 5 Plus. Like, I don't know how, amateur teams and stuff can do it anymore. Like, they have to scrim or they play normals. That's not practice. Like, scrimming is, I guess, but not as great. It's not as quick. It's not as, fluent. Because, trust me, I did scrims, and it's really slow to set up the games. It's a hassle. Where now you can't do that as a pre-made 5. That, to me, was so dumb. So there's that. And then finally, just to talk about the 1%, as, if my points have not convinced you so far, the top 1% is where everybody wants to be who plays ranked. Or generally, you may go, I don't care about my rank. If I gave you the opportunity to be Diamond, I'd say 90% of people would take it. They'll be like, yeah, I'd love to be Diamond. So let's just agree that majority of the player base would love the opportunity to be Diamond. Great. But then you enter Diamond, and you get punished for being Diamond because of the system that they have in place. That, again, doesn't work. You can't have the rating where people want to be the worst experience in the whole game due to your Dynamic Queue system. Again, that doesn't work. Now, one thing I forgot to mention as well, and I should have mentioned at the beginning of the video, this isn't a rant, by the way, about the new champion select. This is a rant about Dynamic Queue. A lot of people get them confused. I still don't like the new champion select, but I don't care. This is not a rant about only being able to pick top and mid. This is not what this is about. This is about having multiple people in pre-made groups in rank. That's Dynamic Queue, by the way. Next point to talk about is autofill, otherwise known as, I don't mean this to come across in any sass or anything. I literally could rename the autofill feature to the worst idea Riot has ever had. For multiple reasons. The first main reason is it's a complete contradiction to their own system, which I don't know how you made that happen. So this is talking about the new champion select, briefly. So 7 months ago, Riot introduced the system that allowed the user to only pick 2 roles to go into rank. Now, I didn't like this change myself because I feel it lowers competitiveness in terms of the player base as a whole. Because a skillful player base to me is worth more than a very defined player base, if that makes sense. I'd love everybody to play all roles, but be good with them, apart from just 2 roles and be good with them. That's just me anyway, slightly off tangent. But anyway, that was the system. Play 2 roles for the last 6-7 months. That's what majority of the player base has done. They have only been playing for the last 6 or 7 months, they've only been playing 2 roles. It's very important. So their whole skill set, what they've got used to, their runes, their masteries, their champion pool, their champion builds, all of probably majority of them for 2 roles. Now, autofill is coming, which again really only affects the top 1%. Sometimes it will go down to platinum, but generally the top 1% is if the queue time is too long, then it will automatically put you in any role. Like, it will just go, oh, you're queued as top and mid. Oh, the queue's going really long. Have AD carry. But that person who has now been given AD carry, who didn't queue up for it because of your system, hasn't played AD carry in over 6 months because of your system. So you're putting them into, let's give the example of this is in Challenger. So a Challenger top / mid main has now been given AD carry. They're most likely going to be playing against an AD carry main who is Challenger. How is a Challenger player, still a good player, who hasn't played AD carry in 6 months, supposed to play against somebody who has played AD carry for the last 6 months, pretty much solely? When the whole dynamic queue system was introduced, their whole philosophy was, let's make it more competitive. Or the new champion select, it was make it more competitive. This is the most anti-competitive idea I've ever had for the sake of lowering queue times. Now, I don't think I'm the only top 1% player that would be like, I prefer having longer queue times but more competitive games rather than this autofill feature. Bad idea. One thing to kind of mention is, you may think, oh, it only really affects like Challenger Master Plates. I was streaming the other day on my stream only account. Yes, I have an account that I only stream on. It's currently in Platinum 2, but it has Diamond 5 / Diamond 4 MMR. My queue times on that account was 15 minutes. There's a VOD on Twitch if you want to go see yourself. 15 minutes on a Platinum 2 account that is in Diamond 4 / Diamond 5 MMR. Think of people who are in Challenger, who are in Masters, and then the point being is you wait so long to get into one of these games, and because people are being given roles that they're not actually playing, it's just a stomp pretty much in every game. So you wait half an hour to get into the game, but then every game's pretty much a 20-minute stomp because it's not competitive, because it's not balanced. Again, that shows that the system doesn't work. Next is to briefly talk about the round table. So we are wrapping up here. I realise, again, this is a fairly long video. But the round table event, to me, was in a weird way, and again, I want to have a good relationship with Riot. I have aspirations to work there one day. It was a sign of desperation. It was a let's try and appear strong with well thought out opinions that can kind of quiet the community about Dynamic Queue. The problem with it was they came out straight away. Their first sentence to the video was, so solo queue's not coming back, or something along that lines. That hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, wait, what? That's the first sentence you say? And then straight away you have me in a bad mood watching that video. And I think I need to watch the video again, but that's the first thing that you say. And then I think Scarra and G-Bay kind of was like, what? That's the first thing you're saying? So yeah, they invited Scarra. Good choice to invite, I'd say. He's been fairly vocal himself about the systems, but an ex-pro, very respected player, in the scene, not only for how he played when he was a pro, but for his attitude. He's never had big drama or fiascos. He's just a good guy that gets along with pretty much everybody, from what I know, by talking to some people that may know him. He's a good guy. Good idea to bring him to the round table. G-Bay, they bring him to try and act as the average Joe blogs. It's fine. I realise why they wanted a content creator, because a content creator is used to talking on a camera and not getting nervous. So it was a good choice to have G-Bay as well. Now, the first thing to say is I don't know how edited the video was. I don't know how much they included. It was like a 10-15 minute video from memory. They may have been there an hour talking for all we know. I have no idea. You can't tell. But to me, I finished that video more angry, not only because solo queue's not returning. I was angry with the answers Riot was giving, because they were basically hiding behind non-data. They were hiding behind a wall of data that they were not releasing. You can't, you lose an argument to me. You lose a debate to me. If you go, you're wrong, I have figures to back it up, you lose the argument as soon as you don't provide those figures. Hello? I don't know if I'm the only one missing that, but you lose the argument. You look weak if you're not providing the figures. And the biggest point that I got out of it was Riot was like, oh, it's toxicity. You know, we hate toxicity. We're against toxicity. Dynamic Q has reduced toxicity. Fact. And then G-Bay made a good point. And I'd love to have the statistics on this. G-Bay made the point is, wouldn't it be the new champion select that reduced the toxicity more than Dynamic Q? And they were like, maybe? The reason for it, just to explain the point, is back in the old system of solo queue, without the new champion select and stuff, you had a war, basically, in champion select of everybody going, I'm mid, all AFK, I'm mid. So the new champion select got rid of that. Yes, you had the occasional idiot that tried to kind of be like, I've been given jungle, but I'm going mid. They get punished. Like, the system punishes them people anyway. So it gets rid of that problem. There is no, I'm mid. It gets rid of that problem. That itself, I would wager, reduces most toxicity. Like, that was a huge toxicity problem, was when somebody didn't get their role, and for the rest of the game, they'd act like crazy person, back-talking that person who got their role because of pick order or whatever. Yes, you occasionally get some people that are like, hey, I'm a top mid main, I've been given top this game, you're taking mid and you're playing it bad. Fine, but nowadays you kind of have to look at the system that you're not just a one-role main. If you're doing it correctly anyway, you're not a one-role main. You kind of have to be a two-role main. And then if you be a two-role main, you're actually doing the system what it wants to do. You're doing it correctly. Some people have made the suggestion, oh, can we only queue for one role? Please don't do that. That reduces the skill of the game again by tenfold. Like, I hated when they changed it only down to 2 roles. Myself, personally, I'd love if they upped it. That minimum 2 roles, but you can queue up to 5. But you can swap and change. That is better than autofill. You know, if you could simply queue for 3 roles instead of 2, that will help with queue times, because some people are confident enough to queue with 3 roles. Maybe they're not confident enough to queue as fill. But if you, myself, let's use me as an example. I, most of the time in solo queue nowadays, and again, I call it solo queue because my mind is just like that, I queue as top and mid. I'd be more than confident to enter ranked as top, mid, and jungle. I'd do that every time because that's what I play. That would reduce queue times because more people are searching for more roles. So that is a potential suggestion. But yeah, the dynamic queue, the round table, sorry, it was more of a weakness thing for me. It showed Riot more being weak than strong, which I think was opposite of what they wanted to do. And I would just say, as a player that has played this game for 6-7 years, I am slightly scared about the future of League. Don't worry, I'm not going away in the foreseeable future. I would say I still have another year or 2 under my belt of League of Legends if it stays just the way that it is. But if Dynamic Q does stay for another year or 2, I will be saying goodbye to this game. You know, it's not the game that I love anymore. Like, I still love the game, but it's the reason I played was to know where I belonged as an individual in terms of skill, and that's completely gone. So yeah, you know, when I do leave this game, it will most likely be because of Dynamic Q. Hopefully you understand why now. Hopefully you have a bit of a glimmer to what it's like as a top 1% player who does value individual skill. Hopefully I've made that clear. But yeah, I don't want to be dramatic. You know, yes, I'm not quitting in the next year or 2. But say we're in Season 8 and Dynamic Q, they've announced we're continuing with Dynamic Q in Season 8 or Season 9. That's when I might hang up my boots, because it is losing interest. Like I mentioned earlier, I hardly pay on my main account anymore. I've got over, I think, on that individual account, I think I've spent around £3,000. I've spent a lot in this game. I've invested a lot of time and money to this game, and it would be a shame to leave it over a system that in the first place, I don't think belongs in the game. What are my dreams? So just to summarize, what would I want to the future? Ranked 5s to come back, and solo queue. It's that simple. Again, I don't know why they catered to casuals in a hardcore ranked system. That's the first point to me that just didn't make sense. So yeah, that's going to be the extra video for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully you can see, again, my perspective. Even if you still like Dynamic Q, hopefully you can just see this perspective from the other side. And I understand the perspective from your side, by the way, if you are somebody that likes Dynamic Q. But to me, there is only one point in that, is you get to play with your friends. That is it. That is the only positive to Dynamic Q, in my opinion, where I've just listed, 10 reasons why I hate Dynamic Q? The scales, in my opinion, outweigh in hating it more than liking it. If you have, even if you have a non-purely, unbiased opinion, I've spoken to people that don't even play League, and they're all in favor of like, that doesn't make sense. So yeah, that's going to be it for today's video, guys. Our extra video for today. So thank you very much for watching. Leave all your stuff in the comments, opinions, and I will say don't turn it into rage. If there's rage, I'll moderate the chat. But you can have your opinion. You can be for Dynamic Q, put it in the comments. You're perfectly fine having your opinion. But just do it in a calm, collected way like I've spoken about it today. So thank you very much for watching. Throw a like on it if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't. And I'll see you guys next time. See ya.